Christmas Eve was supposed to be quiet that year. I'd planned on watching movies, eating leftovers, maybe pretending to study for finals just so my mom would stop saying I was wasting my break. That peace lasted until 3:17 p.m., when she stood in the doorway holding her purse and dropped the bomb like she was commenting on the weather. "You'll be watching your cousins tonight," she said. I blinked. "Watching them do what?" "Existing," she replied. "Their parents are driving out of town for a Christmas party, and your aunt needs help. You're good with kids." I nearly choked on my hot chocolate. "Mom, there are 5 of them." 5. "That's not babysitting. That's surviving." She sighed, checking her watch. "It's Christmas, Noah. Be generous." Generous would be donating blood. This is child labor. Her eyes narrowed. The look that ends all negotiations. "You'll be fine. I'll drop you off in an hour." And that's how I ended up standing on my Aunt Kelly's porch just as the first snow started to fall, holding a bag of board games like a soldier heading into battle. The door swung open before I could knock, and chaos immediately spilled out. 5 pairs of eyes peered up at me, each radiating a different kind of danger. There was Emma, the oldest at 12, already rolling her eyes like the world owed her Christmas presents and apologies. Then Ben, 10, with the permanent energy of a squirrel on caffeine. Lily, 8, armed with paint markers and zero fear. The twins, Max and Zoe, 5, in matching elf pajamas so sticky with candy canes that I could smell the sugar from the doorway. "Mom said you're babysitting," Emma said flatly. "Good luck." Behind her, Aunt Kelly appeared in a blur of perfume and panic, tugging on an earring. "Thank you again, sweetheart. I owe you big time. We left snacks in the kitchen, the Wi-Fi passwords on the fridge, and if someone cries, just fix it. You're a lifesaver." Then she and Uncle Rob were gone. Coats, perfume, tire tracks, and silence swallowed by slamming doors. I turned slowly back toward the living room. 5 faces stared at me like a jury ready to deliberate. "All right," I said. "We're just gonna watch a movie." "No cartoons," Emma interrupted. "Movies are for babies." Zoe raised a hand, chocolate smeared. "I am a baby," Ben snorted. "No, you're a goblin." "Am not." "R2." Within seconds, the twins were chasing each other in circles. Lily was drawing on the dog, and Emma had vanished into the shadow realm of preteen boredom. So this was Christmas Eve. I tried to pull rank, tried to sound like an adult, which worked for a whole 30 seconds until someone yelled, "Fire!" It wasn't real fire, it was the toaster. Ben had tried to make Christmas toast by shoving a candy cane into it. Smoke filled the kitchen like it was auditioning for a disaster movie. After that, all rules dissolved. The dog stole cookies. The twins turned wrapping paper into armor. Emma FaceTimed her friend to complain about the babysitting overlord, meaning me. Somewhere between cleaning the toaster and pulling glitter glue off the ceiling, I realized something. This wasn't babysitting. This was karma. Years of ignored chores and sarcastic comments, now collecting interest. By 8 p.m., I had a tension headache, frosting on my hoodie, and the kind of exhaustion philosophers write about. And yet, when I turned on the TV just to stall for time, something weird happened. The noise eased. The kids actually sat down, slowly, suspiciously. The movie was one of those old Christmas ones from the 90s. Fake snow, cheesy lessons, predictable endings. But halfway through, the twins leaned against me. Lily rested her head on the dog. Even Emma muted her phone. For a few quiet minutes, the world seemed okay. The house smelled like sugar and chaos, but underneath it all there was warmth, the kind that sneaks up on you when you're not expecting it. I glanced at them, messy, loud, sticky, and absolutely unstoppable, and thought maybe Mom's plan wasn't punishment after all. Maybe, just maybe, this Christmas Eve was going to mean something different. Then Ben whispered, "Is Santa real?" And before I could stop myself, I said, "Only if you brush your teeth." He frowned. "So, no?" The chaos started all over again. By 9 p.m., the house looked like the North Pole exploded. Wrapping paper filled the floor like snowdrifts. Frosting covered the twins from nose to chin, and I was one candy cane away from calling it quits. "Okay," I said, trying the calmest voice I could fake. "Everyone brush your teeth, get in pajamas, and we'll—" "We are in pajamas," Ben said, twirling around in elf pants, glitter cascading off him like confetti. "I meant new pajamas, ones not covered in sugar and chaos." Emma groaned from the couch without looking up from her phone. "You can't tell them what to do. You're not their real babysitter." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Emma, the adults are literally gone. Like, don't come home until midnight, gone. I'm it, she smirked. Cool. Then it's your funeral when Mom finds out Max filled her purse with peanut butter. My head snapped toward the kitchen. What? Sure enough, the twins were in the pantry, elbow deep in a jar of peanut butter, giggling as they hid spoonfuls in random places. The dog wagged happily beside them, smears on his nose like war paint. Why? I began, too tired for a full sentence. Would you do that? Zoe grinned proudly. For Santa, so he doesn't get hungry. Santa eats cookies, not, never mind. I sent them to wash their hands, with actual soap, not candy soap, and turned back to find Lily parading around like a Christmas tree. Actual lights tangled around her shoulders, the plug trailing ominously behind her. If you've never experienced fear until you see a child wearing a plug. Lily. Stop. No electricity cosplay, I said, carefully untangling her. Where did you even get these? She beamed. From the big box under the stairs. I froze. You mean the box labeled "Don't touch until Christmas Day"? Her grin widened. Yep. Behind me, Emma laughed. Guess you're in trouble now. I rubbed my temples. Emma, unless you're volunteering to help, maybe... Don't. She rolled her eyes but put her phone down. Fine. But if this place burns down before midnight, it's your name they'll yell. Progress, maybe. I spent the next 10 minutes reordering chaos into something resembling civilization. The dog got a bath. The twins were de-stickified. Lily sulked about losing her Christmas armor. I bribed peace with cookies, which worked for approximately 5 minutes, before Ben whispered the words that ended all peace. Let's catch Santa. The room went still. The twins gasped. Emma smirked. I blinked. I beg your pardon. Ben grinned, face bright with the dangerous confidence of a child who has never faced consequences. We set up cameras, or traps, maybe both. No traps, I said immediately. Yes, traps, the twins cheered in unison, and before I could stop them, they ran for the living room shouting, Santa Hunt 3000. Emma crossed her arms. You'll never see them again. I followed the sound of giggling and chaos to the living room, where the kids had already stacked couch cushions into a makeshift fortress. They'd hung tinsel like booby traps and sprinkled flour by the fireplace. So we can see footprints, Ben explained proudly. Lily held up her tablet. And if we record him, we'll be famous. This is insane, I said. No, Ben said, grinning. This is science. I should have stopped it. Reasonable people would have stopped it. But I made the fatal mistake of sitting on the couch for just 1 second. 30 minutes later, there were flower footprints all over the floor, not Santa's. The twins were fast asleep under a blanket fort, and Ben had somehow duct-taped a cookie plate to the fireplace mantel for better cookie visibility. Emma was scrolling through her phone again. You know, I said, half laughing, half exhausted. You could have helped. She didn't look up. This? Nah. You're doing great on your own. I leaned back. That sarcasm runs in the family, huh? That made her pause. She blinked, then quietly said, Yeah. Guess it does. I looked at her. There was a flicker of something soft in her gaze. Maybe guilt, maybe exhaustion. You don't have to hate everything, you know. She shrugged, eyes on the window. I don't hate everything, just Christmas. That caught me off guard. How can you hate Christmas? Because it's fake, she said, her voice flat. Everyone acts happy for one day. Then it's back to fighting and pretending. I don't get why people try so hard. She went quiet after that. Outside, snow was falling steadily, coating the streetlights in silver. I wanted to tell her I understood, that adults pretended too, that half of being a grown-up was faking cheer while worrying about everything you couldn't fix. But she was 12, and 12-year-olds don't take lessons from babysitters. So I just said, maybe people try because they need one day that feels different. Doesn't have to be happy. Just less hard. She almost smiled. You're weird. Occupational hazard. She rolled her eyes but didn't look away from the window. I cleaned quietly for a bit while she watched the snow. The twins snored in their fort, little cookie monsters in elf pajamas. Lily curled beside the dog, tangled in a blanket. Ben was still drawing imaginary footprints in the flour with a spoon. When midnight chimed from the old clock, Emma finally whispered, "Maybe Christmas isn't awful." I looked up, smiling. "You'd better not let the internet hear you say that." For the first time all night she laughed, a small laugh, but real. I thought that was the end of it, peace at last, until a loud crash shattered the quiet. The twins screamed, the dog barked. Emma jumped up. Ben looked horrified. "Santa!" he yelled, pointing toward the kitchen. Somewhere past the doorway, something or someone had knocked over the cookie tray. I grabbed a flashlight, heart pounding. "All right," I muttered. "Either we just caught Santa, or we're getting robbed by the world's clumsiest burglar." And just like that, Christmas Eve took a turn that no amount of babysitting experience could have prepared me for. The crash came again, a clattering metallic sound followed by a low thud. Something or someone had knocked over a pile of pans. The twins clung to my legs like barnacles, eyes wide. "Santa's here," Zoe whispered, trembling more from excitement than fear. Emma rolled her eyes, but even she looked a little nervous. Right, because the actual Santa breaks in like a raccoon. "Maybe he was in a rush," Ben said earnestly. "World tour? Tight schedule." I grabbed the closest thing resembling a weapon, Aunt Kelly's decorative candy cane staff from the entryway. Not exactly intimidating, but it felt better than going in empty-handed. "Okay," I whispered, motioning for them to stay close. "No one screams, no one moves until I say so." Ben immediately lifted his phone. "Wait, I'm recording this, for evidence." "Put that down before you flash blind me," I hissed. We tiptoed toward the kitchen, the flashlight from my phone cutting through the shadows. The air smelled faintly of cocoa and panic. In the middle of the floor, amid overturned mixing bowls and broken candy canes, stood a figure, back turned, red fabric catching faint glimmers of the string lights from the living room. My heart stopped for a second. No way. Then the stranger turned. Not Santa. Not even close. It was Mr. Davis, the neighbor from 3 doors down, the one who wore slippers outside and yelled at delivery drones. He froze mid-step, blinking at us through round glasses fogged with steam. "Mr. Davis?" I croaked. He looked equally horrified. "Oh dear heavens, Noah, what are you doing here?" "I live here tonight," I said. "What are you doing breaking in like Kris Kringle on probation?" He held up both hands, crumbs on his fingers. "I wasn't breaking in. Kelly told me to feed the cat." I blinked. "They don't have a cat." "Well," he said, voice shrinking. "That explains the lack of cat food." Emma facepalmed. "You were robbing the fridge?" He looked helplessly at the cookie tray, now shattered on the tiles. "I might have gotten distracted." I sighed, lowering the candy cane staff. The twins, crushed by disappointment, peeked around my leg. "So you're not Santa?" Zoe pouted. Mr. Davis managed a weak chuckle. "Sorry, kiddo. The beard's real, though." She looked skeptical. "Then why'd you come through the window?" He froze again. "Because your aunt's lock sticks and, well, because you broke in," Emma supplied. Classic Davis move. By then, Lily had joined the group, still half asleep, dragging the dog behind her. "Is he leaving presents?" she mumbled. Ben grinned. "No, Lily. He's stealing them." That's when everything exploded again. All shouting, laughter, the twins demanding to know where reindeer were parked, and Mr. Davis trying to explain why he climbed through a kitchen window carrying a bag of cat treats. Eventually, I ushered everyone into the living room and handed the bewildered neighbor a cup of cocoa because, at that point, nothing surprised me anymore. He sat on the couch looking like a man who'd accidentally walked into someone else's holiday movie. "You've got your hands full," he said quietly, nodding toward the cousins, who were now trying to teach the dog jingle bells. "Tell me about it," I muttered. After a few awkward minutes, he stood, mumbling something about heading home before more confusion. The kids waved half-heartedly. To them, the magic was gone. Santa had turned into a confused retiree with bad climbing judgment, but as the door clicked shut behind him, the house fell strangely calm. Ben broke the silence first. "That was still kinda cool," he said. "A real-life intruder on Christmas Eve." Emma rolled her eyes. "You're impossible." He grinned. "You're just mad Santa's not real." She threw a pillow at him. I sank into the couch, rubbing my face. "Okay, everyone. New rule. No more Santa stings, no more window stakeouts, and no more candy experiments in toasters." "That's 3 rules," said Lily. "Yes," I said. "And they all start right now." The twins yawned mid-protest and slumped against each other, eyelids heavy. Within minutes, they were out. Ben followed soon after, his phone dimming mid-scroll. Lily curled into a blanket, mumbling something about reindeer treats. Only Emma stayed awake, scrolling idly until she glanced at me. "Hey," she said after a long pause. "That guy, Mr. Davis, why'd he even care to come feed a cat we don't have?" I shrugged. "Maybe he's lonely." She mulled that over, then said softly, "Yeah, must be weird being alone on Christmas." Something in her tone stung, a quiet recognition between us. I thought about my mom at some party somewhere, clutching champagne instead of cocoa, forgetting why she'd sent me here in the first place. "Yeah," I said. "It is." Outside, the snow kept falling. Soft. Endless. By midnight, they were all asleep. The movie played quietly in the background, shadows flickering across the living room like ghosts of calmer times. I sat there, surrounded by the mess, the sound of their quiet breathing mixing with the storm outside. Maybe this was what Christmas was really about. Chaos and warmth stitched together by accidents and grace. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. Until, just as my eyes started closing, I heard it. 3 soft knocks on the door. Slow, deliberate. I frowned. Mr. Davis? The parents? Or, just maybe, someone else entirely. The sound came again. Slow, spaced out, heavy. Not the hurried knock of a neighbor or the cautious tap of a kid testing a dare. It was deliberate. The kind of knock that carried weight. I froze for a second, every childhood Christmas story I'd ever heard running through my head like it was auditioning for this moment. The twins stirred but didn't wake. The dog let out a soft huff, half asleep but alert enough to notice something was different. There was another knock, louder this time. Emma peeked at me from across the couch, whispering, "If this is Mr. Davis again, tell him he's banned." I stood, motioning for her to stay put. My feet sank into the carpet, soft but heavy. I flicked on the porch light and peered through the window. Snow fell thick and slow outside, the kind of snow that swallowed footprints in minutes. And standing in it was a woman I barely recognized at first. Hair dusted white with flakes, eyes tired but kind. My mom. I blinked, confused, half expecting her to vanish like my brain had conjured her out of guilt. She waved awkwardly at the doorbell camera, looking smaller somehow under her coat. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. "Mom? What are you doing here?" "Surprise," she said, teeth chattering. "Merry Christmas, kiddo. You said you were going to that dinner thing." She smiled, faint, worn. "Yeah, I was, but I didn't make it." She stepped inside, brushing snow from her sleeves. Traffic was horrible, and then I thought, what's the point of another party when my son's spending Christmas Eve wrestling 5 hyper-gremlins alone? I blinked. "So you ditched your night for this circus?" "I'm your mother," she said, smirking. "It's part of the job description, swooping in right after the worst part is over." She looked around at the chaos, the forts, the flower footprints, the sticky elf pajamas, and her smile softened into something else entirely. "Looks like you handled it, though." "Define handled," I muttered. Emma sat up on the couch, bleary-eyed. "Are you his mom?" she asked suspiciously. My mom laughed. "That's what the birth certificate says. Who are you, my defense attorney?" Emma considered that. "Depends. Do you bribe with cookies?" Mom's eyebrow lifted. "Is that how you run your charges, counselor?" I couldn't help but laugh, the first laugh that didn't feel forced all night. It felt weirdly right, the kind of laugh that stitched over frayed edges. "Well," Mom said, slipping off her coat, "if we're having a movie night, I call a seat. Scoot." By the time she settled on the couch, the room felt warmer, not because of the fireplace, but because she was actually here. Really here. And that realization hit harder than I expected. Christmases had always been complicated. After the divorce, she tried to hold everything together like duct tape holding a sinking ship. Then work took over. Exhaustion filled the cracks. And holidays turned into something we just talked about instead of lived. I never said it out loud, but over the years, her absence had started feeling like tradition. And now, suddenly, she'd shown up again. Breath turning to mist, smile small and uncertain, like she was rewriting the ending of the night before it was too late. "Did you eat?" she asked, looking at me. "Define eat." "That's bad." She nudged me lightly. Kitchen. Go. I'll handle this. She gestured toward the couch, where Ben was drooling on a pillow, and Lily had somehow gotten her foot stuck in a decorative wreath. No, really, I said. You don't have to. Hush, she said. Go make us something warm. I'll babysit the babysitter. I hesitated, then smiled. If you burn the house down, I'm not cleaning it. Relax, she said. I only almost set a kitchen on fire once. You were 6. I've grown. I laughed again, shaking my head as I wandered into the kitchen. The fridge was half empty but miracle ready. Leftover pasta, eggs, milk, a stray block of cheese that had somehow survived the apocalypse. I threw together what could pass for an omelet and listened to the sound drifting from the living room. Her gentle voice, filling the quiet between snores and cartoon jingles from the TV. She talked to Emma for a while. I caught pieces of it. Questions about school, friends, favorite subjects. Her tone was light, patient. I realized she hadn't talked to anyone like that in a long time. Not even me. When I came back with 2 plates, Emma was half smiling, listening like she'd forgotten she knew how. Mom took a bite of the omelet, eyes widening. Well, look at this. You cook now? My little trooper traded sarcasm for seasoning. I pretended to bow. Somehow I've survived your genes. She laughed, louder this time, and it did something to the room. The air felt easier. Emma's shoulders dropped. Even the dog wagged its tail in approval. When midnight finally came, the snow outside had quieted to a gentle hush. We sat there with the lights dimmed. The chaos turned soft in the glow. The cousins were all asleep, their fort drooping but holding. My mom leaned back, eyelids heavy, content. She turned to me and said, You know something? I used to hate Christmas Eve. That makes 2 of us, I said. Yeah, but you still showed up. She smiled. Guess I finally learned from you. For a while, we didn't talk. We just watched the snow fall. Later, after she nodded off, I cleaned the last of the dishes and checked the fort again. The kids slept soundly, sugar plum dreams buzzing in small, steady breaths. I was supposed to feel drained, but instead I felt steady, like something old had eased its grip inside me. For once, Christmas didn't feel like pretending. It felt like truth. Messy, chaotic, late to the party truth. And when I looked at my mom, asleep on the couch surrounded by the same chaos she'd sent me into, I realized this was probably the most honest version of family I'd ever seen. It wasn't perfect, but maybe that was the point. I woke to sunlight and silence. For a second, it didn't register where I was. I caught a glimpse of scattered wrapping paper, a half-toppled pillow fort, a dog snoring in the corner, and the unmistakable smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Then it hit me. The kids. The chaos. The all-night circus that somehow hadn't burned the house down. I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes. The TV hummed faintly. The end of some cartoon marathon the twins must have fallen asleep watching. And there, sitting on the couch with a mug in her hand and the faintest of smiles, was Mom. She looked peaceful. Tired, but peaceful. The kind of look people wear when they found something they didn't realize they were missing. Merry Christmas, she said softly. Merry Christmas, I replied, my voice half awake. Did you sleep? She shrugged. Maybe half an hour. But you know what? I didn't mind. I've had quieter holidays, but none this alive. I looked around. The twins were curled beneath the blanket fort, still drooling on glittered pillows. Ben was halfway off the couch, one sock missing, clutching his phone like a security blanket. Lily was sprawled upside down in an armchair, her hair sticking out like a static-charged halo. Emma was curled in the corner, clutching a pillow, fast asleep. The same kid who swore last night she was too old to care about Christmas. Mom sipped her coffee, smiling at them. They're good kids. Each one a little wild, but they've got heart. You should have seen them before you showed up, I said. It was a full-scale candy-fueled riot. Oh, I can imagine. She eyed the mess, the flour still sprinkled from the failed Santa trap. But this feels like memories in motion. You'll see. Years from now, someone will tell this story like a comedy, and it'll sound perfect. Perfectly catastrophic, I muttered. She chuckled, then set her mug down. I couldn't sleep, so I did a little something, she said, nodding toward the dining room. I stood, stretching, and followed her gesture. Every surface of the table was covered. Scraps of wrapping paper, empty ribbons, plates piled with pancakes, and mugs of cocoa steaming beside bowls of fruit. But the biggest surprise was in the middle. A small tree, half decorated with mismatched ornaments and tinsel that looked suspiciously like it came from last night's fort build. I blinked. Where did this even come from? Garage, she said innocently. Found it while hunting for coffee. Thought we could use some Christmas spirit. You put all that together before sunrise? She shrugged, hiding her smile. Guilt's a good motivator. I turned to face her, confused. Guilt for what? She hesitated, then said, For every Christmas I wasn't really here. The words hung between us, bare, honest, without defense. I didn't know what to do with them. I stared at her, trying to read her expression, but it wasn't regret exactly. It was something quieter, understanding maybe. I walked over, grabbed a mug, and poured myself some coffee. Well, I said, you're here now. She smiled, eyes wet at the edges. Guess I am. The moment passed when the first small voice broke through the silence. It was Zoe, yawning, hair sticking up in every direction. She blinked at the decorations, then gasped. Santa came. Before I could correct her, Max popped out from the fort like a sugar-high prairie dog. I knew the trap worked. Ben rolled off the couch in a dramatic groan. Did he leave presents? Please tell me he didn't see the peanut butter bag. The room erupted in chaos again, the best kind. The twins screaming, Lily gasping about the tiny tree miracle. Emma rubbing her eyes and trying not to smile when Benson barked, tail wagging like a drum. Mom stood in the middle of it all, eyes glistening in the sunlight, laughter mixing with theirs like she'd been part of this family circus the entire time. For once, I didn't see the woman running late, answering work calls, or delivering half-promises. I saw the mom who danced in our kitchen when I was little, burning pancakes but pretending it was intentional. I leaned against the doorframe, taking it all in. Somehow everything in that messy living room made sense. Emma noticed me watching and raised an eyebrow. You look emotional or whatever. Are you crying? Just allergic to joy, I said. She snorted. Gross. Mom walked over, elbowing me gently. You did good, Noah. They'll remember this. I shrugged. You did too. Somehow you made Christmas out of spilled flour and bad decisions. It's in the genes, she teased. The rest of the morning blurred into the kind of chaos that belongs in family movies. The good kind. We cooked pancakes together, burned some, laughed anyway, took blurry photos, helped the kids unwrap their aunt's pre-labeled gifts, and sang songs off-key while the dog howled back up. Around 11, Aunt Kelly and Uncle Rob finally stumbled through the door, looking exactly like two people who'd been to a party they regretted. They froze at the sight of me, the mess, and Mom standing there flipping more pancakes like she belonged. You survived, Aunt Kelly said, voice half awe, half shock. Barely, I said. But the house still stands, no one's missing, and Santa is officially real again. Kelly looked around at the tree, the kids, my mom laughing with the twins. You know, she said softly, I think he might be. The rest of the day passed slow, not lazy, just full. The kids drifted in and out of naps, cocoa mugs clinked against plates, and outside the snow never stopped falling. That evening, after everyone left, we sat on the porch steps watching the world glow under the porch light's halo. Mom pulled her coat tighter, breath curling white in the air. You grew up fast, she said quietly. Faster than I meant for you to. Life didn't really wait, I said. She nodded, staring into the snow. No, it doesn't, but you waited for me anyway. Thank you for that. I shook my head gently. You showed up when it counted. That's all I ever needed. She smiled, small but real. Merry Christmas, Noah. Merry Christmas, Mom. For a long moment we sat in comfortable silence, not the kind that hid disappointment, but the kind that felt like peace. Inside, the tree light flickered, the quiet hum of a day finally finding its ending. And for once, Christmas didn't feel like something we were pretending to celebrate. It felt like forgiveness wrapped in laughter and pancake batter. Something real, something ours. By the time night returned, the house was completely still again. The cousins were gone, whisked home covered in frosting, glitter, and stories no one would fully believe. Aunt Kelly had hugged me tight before leaving, whispering that she owed me a lifetime of free meals and maybe therapy coverage. The dog was asleep on the rug. The TV hummed quietly with the credits of a movie no one had finished watching. It was almost peaceful, the kind of peace that feels earned. Mom lingered too, helping clean up, humming under her breath as she scraped dried syrup off the counter. Her voice was soft, nostalgic, the same tune she used to hum when she'd tuck me in on nights before everything got complicated. "You know," she said, stacking plates, "this is the first Christmas Eve I've spent without rushing." "You picked a loud one," I said, nodding toward the living room where remnants of chaos still glittered in the carpet. "Yeah," she said quietly, "but somehow this one feels right." We worked side by side in comfortable silence for a while. I didn't have much left to say. Not because I didn't want to talk, but because, for once, words weren't needed. We'd already said what mattered earlier that morning. Eventually she yawned, rubbing her neck. "I should go. I told work I'd check emails by tonight, but..." She looked at me, smiling faintly. "They can wait until tomorrow." Her words hung there longer than she probably realized. Years ago they would have been her excuse. "I have to check emails. I have to finish something for work. I'll make it up to you later." But tonight, she meant it differently. It wasn't guilt this time. It was choice. "Stay for dinner," I said before I could think too much about it. She hesitated, then nodded. "All right. One more meal. No burnt pancakes this time." We cooked something simple: spaghetti, garlic bread, the easy kind of food people make when they don't need to impress each other. While the pasta boiled, she told stories I'd never heard before, about the Christmas before I was born, when she and Dad could barely afford rent but still bought each other ridiculous gifts, about the year she put tinsel in the toaster, a decision she swore she still gets teased about at work. It wasn't polished or planned, just real. And I couldn't stop thinking how long it had been since we'd had a night like this. After dinner, she walked to her car while snow fell thicker than ever, blanketing everything in half-light. I handed her a leftover container for the road. "Drive safe," I said. She smiled, that same worn, soft smile she'd worn on the porch that morning. "You're not gonna tear up on me, are you?" I smirked. "Only if you start with a speech." "No speeches," she promised. "Just thank you. For tonight. For not giving up." I could have said something clever, but instead I just hugged her. The kind of hug that meant more than any apology ever could. She squeezed me tightly, a little too long, like she was making sure she'd get it right this time. When she finally drove off, taillights flashing red through the snow, I stood for a moment on the porch, watching. The silence that followed didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full, like a story that finally found its right ending. Inside, the house was dim. The small tree in the corner flickered weakly, nearly out of batteries. I started picking up stray wrapping paper, until I noticed something sitting on the table, tucked just beneath one of the plates. A folded note. My name written across the front in her handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a single line. "For all the Christmases I missed, thank you for giving me back this one." Below the note was something else, a small gift box wrapped hastily in leftover paper. Inside was a keychain shaped like a snowflake. It was silver, worn, and slightly dented, clearly not new. I turned it over. On the back, barely visible through years of scratches, were 2 words engraved: "Still here." I held it for a long time, tracing the words with my thumb, remembering everything they meant. Not just the night before, but all the nights before that. The years of silence, resentment, misunderstanding. Still here. It wasn't poetic, it wasn't flashy, but it was true. She was still here. I was still here. And maybe that was enough. Maybe it always had been. I clipped the keychain to my house keys, set the note inside my wallet, and collapsed onto the couch. The room glowed faintly from the tree, lights blinking unevenly like tired little stars. The dog curled up beside me with a grunt. For a while I just sat there, watching the snow pile up outside. I thought about the cousins, asleep somewhere with their own versions of Christmas dreams. I thought about Emma, who might secretly believe in magic again, and about Mom, driving carefully through the storm, maybe humming the same song she used to when I was small. There was no miracle tonight, no surprise gifts, no perfect family photo, no thunderclap revelation. Just small things, The kind you almost miss if you're not paying attention. Warm food, laughter, forgiveness, the sound of snow thickening against the windows. It was enough to make the house feel alive again. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and whispered something I didn't plan to say. Maybe to her, maybe to the quiet. Merry Christmas. Thanks for coming home. Outside, the porch light flickered once and steadied. And somewhere between exhaustion and peace, I realized this Christmas wasn't about fixing the broken pieces at all. It was about noticing that somehow, through all the noise, some pieces never left. Still here, still us, still enough.